everybody, how are you? It's Allison Schaefer. It is 8 o'clock, and as promised, I am here to talk with people on our fifth of one of a series of talks that we're having on Facebook Live about the family talk about drinking. And I'm here in my home. I'm here with Catherine Howell, who's going to help me field questions and sort of moderate our discussion this evening. She's got her son here who's working on some games and putting in some times. My daughter, who's actually here studying for exams. Zoe, come in and talk about your stress.
Where do I
come
go?
Come behind right behind my chair. There you go.
Hello, yes, stress is real.
You're living the dream.
Yeah, it's a serious topic, for sure.
How many have you had this week? Or in the last 2 weeks? We've been living this right now at home.
Too many to count.
Too many. One more to go though, right?
Yeah.
One
in a week.
One in a week.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. So just so you know, we're living the dream right here. Everything we're talking about, we're practicing.
And now I gotta get back to study.
Yeah, okay. She can't even stay and help me do my Facebook Live. So I just want to give you a little bit of a format if this is your first time on Facebook Live or joining us tonight. I prepared some material. I've got at least 10 great power tips for parents. We're going to be talking about this, opportunities to help our kids with their exam stress, so that they don't turn to the alternative of relaxing themselves through self-medication with alcohol when they're underage, and instead giving them some other coping mechanisms. So I've got great ideas for you, and that'll take 10, 15 minutes, and then we're going to turn it to you for a Q&A. But having said that, I don't want you to just sit there passively. It would be very helpful if you say hi, give a shout out, give me your comments, give me your questions, get them in the queue. The sooner they're in the queue, the more likely I am to get to them, and to know that really I'm here because I want this opportunity for us to really be in conversation. So yes, I have prepared material, but please know it's not a presentation, it's a conversation, and it really helps me to know that you've participating and that this is meaningful for you, because that's really why I give my time to this. So thanks for being with us. As I say, let's just talk about this idea that it's exam stress, and it's one of the reasons why we chose tonight to start talking, because it really is very high and present in our kids' lives. Now, whether you have kids that are in high school, they may be preparing exams because they're looking forward to going off to university, in which case they really care about these exams, because this may make the difference between which university they get into. If they are off at college and university for the first time, this may be the first time they've had to actually write exams at that level. And of course, you know, it's just already a pretty overwhelming experience to be away from home, trying to study for exams, not knowing what's really expected of them, can be super, super stressful. If your kids, even if they're experienced at being away, like my daughter, she's in her last year, but of course the last year has pressure because you're like trying to wrap it up and make sure that you've got all your credentials met for graduation criteria. So on any level, this is stressful. I'm particularly empathetic for high school students who could be taking semestered courses, whereby if you have year-long courses and you're taking 8 classes in high school, you potentially could be studying for 8 exams right now. That is a pressure cooker for students. So I think as parents, we can be incredibly empathetic to how stressful that is. And of course, do all our good parenting support about, you know, it's okay and you're gonna make it and we love you regardless of your grades or whatever. But I think it's naive, and I think it's why we've created this family talk about drinking, which is to say it's simply not enough to say don't drink. That really what we're trying to provide parents with is ways that we can empower our kids to truly face the hurdles that they face, and then give them the skills, the language, the mechanisms in order for them to do differently. And so tonight we're particularly looking at how kids can turn to alcohol to de-stress themselves, which is not a good lifelong habit to form. And so yes, I appreciate their stress, and it's particularly high right now, and that's absolutely true. But let's talk about how we can address that in different ways. And one of the ways that we want to just talk to kids about, do you realize what the consequences could be at your campus for drinking? Because many students do not realize it can be so a part of the culture that they haven't stopped and critically thought about the fact that it could mean a suspension or disciplinary action. And that could be just being on campus in a intoxicated state. You may not have been drinking on campus. You may not have been drinking in your dorm. You might have been drinking at a house party. But if you are on campus and the security people stop, you could be up for disciplinary action, which you do not want to have happen, especially if it's at exam time and you may not make your exam at all because you've been disciplined. So it's important that we review this with our kids. And again, not in an accusatory way, but in a, hey, FYI, want to keep you in the know. We care about you, want to make sure that you do right, do good, and that we certainly appreciate that this is a stressful time. So I think we always want to make sure as parents that our kids feel that we are for them, not against them, and that we have their back, and that we're being proactive and having this conversation. And so many parents are nervous about talking to their kids about alcohol. It's why we've created this entire series. So we're talking tonight live time, but I also have a series of videos that reside on my YouTube channel. I'll put up links so that you can look at those. But tonight I want to specifically talk about stress busting with our kids. So I think we do all appreciate that we're all under stress. We can all learn these things. And whether or not you yourself practice these things, you might feel like you're being a little bit like do as I say, not as I do. But maybe this is the motivating opportunity to say, maybe I need to look at some of the stress in my life. Maybe I need to rethink how I'm managing stress. And one of the first things that I think is super important for all students to understand is the power of exercising. So let me tell you, first and foremost, I think we all know it's just good for our health if we exercise. And the first rebuttal that you're going to get is, I don't have time, I'm busy studying, I don't have time. But the truth of the matter is it doesn't take a lot in order for you to benefit from the exertion of your body. Walking up a flight of stairs rather than taking an escalator, walking further across campus rather than taking the first bus stop that drops off in front of your terminal building. Just small amounts of daily activity all add up. And whether you have like a little Fitbit that counts your steps, everyone seems to be really into that. It doesn't mean you need to be a triathlete on top of being a scholar. I totally understand that, but every little bit adds up. And what we know is that when you exercise, it's kind of your body's natural way of de-stressing. It's how we're kind of meant to de-stress. And what it does is it reduces stress, it improves your sleep. And the mechanism for that is that in your body, you create a natural chemical that are called endorphins. That's why people talk about having a runner's high. Those endorphins really are like morphine. They are a chemical that has sort of the same characteristics, so that your neuroreceptors they receive the endorphins the same way that they would any other painkiller that was prescribed by a doctor or any other analgesic. It literally blocks pain and makes you feel good. You get a natural high without having the addiction, without having all the other side effects. It's really how we were wired to de-stress and feel happy in life. So again, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to commit to joining up for a club, but just can you get your body moving? And if we get our kids to pay attention, did you notice you didn't want to go for a walk? You said you didn't have time to go for a run, but when you actually did it feel better? When you walk home from the exam instead of taking the bus, because you got to go back to studying. You don't want to be back in that pressure keg without diffusing and releasing some of the stress of having just written that exam. And I think where parents can really help is tell them to do a double header. Nothing works better than exercising with a friend. So it might mean that you just sort of, say, hey, meet me after class, we'll walk home together. It might mean saying to your high school students, hey, listen, you guys are all together studying. I'll pitch in for a pizza. Why don't you guys go out and throw the ball around or play some ultimate frisbee at the park? Give yourself 20 minutes, half an hour. And by the time you get back, the pizza will be here. I'll have the table set up. Take a study break. Encourage them to do that rather than, they'll take a break and they'll sit in front of the television and they'll, or Netflix, and they'll binge Netflix as a way of relaxing, which I get does turn you off, but it doesn't give you those endorphins. It doesn't give you the same benefit. So again, if we can nudge them in that direction and remind them to just pay attention. The truth is it's hard to get going, but when you're actually out there, they all will say to you, you know what, I feel great. I'm more motivated, my mood is higher, my depression is coming down, I'm more invigorated, I actually have more focus when I come back to studying. So That's the true science. They really will experience that. But as parents, without putting, adding pressure or nagging them about it, we need to remind them. Just do a small experiment. Walk to the block and mail a letter, like small baby steps, and then say, did it feel good? Did it feel good? I promise you, it always feels good. So see if we can encourage them to get themselves moving as a way of distressing rather than turning to the bottle. So other ways, I know that this, you're either in this or you're out of this. You might think this is hokey pokey or not, but the truth is the research is in people that practice mindfulness meditation and yoga as well really get tremendous benefits. There is no argument about this. The question is, do we have the discipline to practice mindfulness meditation? And if that is something that you have not had an opportunity to experience, it's taking off now in all our education systems. We're doing this with kids as young as kindergarten. We are now, seeing better academic results, better behavioral results. The science is behind this. And what really a mindfulness meditation practice is a couple of things. One is it brings you into the moment. So rather than thinking about the past, and I blew it last time and I didn't pass last time and I didn't get good marks in high school and I flubbed the last test and all the things that have happened in the past that worry you, and rather than thinking about the future, I'm not going to make it, I'm never going to get a job, everyone else is doing well. That's very past oriented, the things that we have regrets about and future worries that haven't happened yet. And this brings you into the moment right now. To live mindfully in the moment, the one moment you can control is this moment right now. To be mindfully present of this very single moment. So that is a change of state. And then the second thing is to realize that while we're in this particular moment, that there is a difference between sort of subject and object. There's a difference between me and my thinking. And it's very easy for people to confuse what goes on in our monkey brain that's going around and around and around as worries and stress producing thoughts. Those can really be separated from just us, the human being, and that I am fine right now and I have a mind that produces thoughts. And one way to conceptualize that is to think about you and sound. I'm sitting here right now, but I can hear things on the street, the rustling of leaves, the wind, music in the kitchen, and they're just things around me. And I can do the same. Here's a thought that's saying I better get studying, and here's a thought that says I didn't do this yet, but they're not me. And I can let them go like clouds passing by. So I say that to just describe what the concept is, but not for a minute do I think it's easy. The people who practice and that practice mindfulness training, it's a discipline. And it really has incredible results. Decreased depression, decreased stress, increased self-confidence. It really actually changes the neural networks in the brain, that neuroplasticity is increased, and that the brains of people that practice mindfulness training, monks and Buddhists, their brains look very, very different. These are very peaceful people, and we all have the capacity to get there if we put in the practice. So I have, just because I really wanted to share tips and resources, I can tell you a great little one that I do. I do the mindfulness. It's called an 8-week plan for finding peace in a frantic world. And what I like about this is, I know your kids they're so busy reading textbooks, they don't have time for this, but you don't have to read the book. It does send you to a website where you download onto your phone the guided meditations, plug in your earphones, 8 minutes, it'll walk you through it. And it's multiple weeks. There's all kinds of just even breathing exercises that you can get apps for. I love Happify is another one. There's a free version, there's a paid version, but there's many, many apps. And of course our kids, students, whether they're high school or university, love their apps. I'm seeing people chiming in. Hi, Bonnie, and hi, Christine. So if you can get the apps, they're sitting on the bus waiting to get to class. They're waiting in line, for their cafeteria plate, whatever. Get those earbuds on, if it's even just 15 minutes of breathing. So even if we just take a moment right now to because I'm kind of manic, right? That's my energy. So even when I go into a counseling session, I will say, you know what? We need to leave the outside world. We need to leave my presentation style, me apart, and we just need to ground ourselves and put both feet on the floor. You don't have to lie on the floor. Let's just sit in the chair, ground our feet. Hands respectfully in our laps, folded, gazing our head in a way that has a straight, respectful posture. Eyes slightly down. This is sort of a humble position and a comfortable position. And what we're looking to do is to take deep breaths from the bottom of our lungs, feeling that diaphragm and the belly go out. And we breathe in through the nose. And we want this big inhale, long exhale. Let's just try 3 of them. Just a conscious, feeling the breath, feeling the air touch the outside of your nostrils. That's what you're going to pay attention to. Natural, long and slow. I like to make a little sound. I find the sigh feels good too. Now, it makes for bad YouTube live videos because it's not active. But in 3 breaths, I only took 3 breaths, and I hope that you took those with me. I've already changed the chemistry in my body. I've changed my energy, and I got to get it back up because I'm performing, but I'm presenting, and it's kind of exciting. But it's amazing that if you learn the power of just those few breaths, whether it's while you're studying, waiting in line, feeling the anxiousness come up, just about to put your pen to paper in a test, learning that you have the power to calm yourself through a few short minutes of breath. No student can complain that takes too long. No student can say, I don't have time for a couple of breaths. And then they learn it and they see the immediate feedback of how it releases their stress. You'll find that they will want to do it and do it again. Zoe's a great breather. She also has like a little bottle rescue remedy. Bach flowers, very calming, keeps the stress out. So really recommend that you teach your kids, and whether you do it yourself or just encourage them to get those resources. Immediate results will help dissipate their stress. The other thing is laughter. So I was kind of joking about the fact that, we want them outside running around with their friends because that's social and it's active, and they will laugh. But if they're going to be on Netflix or they're going to be on YouTube, let them watch silly, funny videos, because laughing also releases all kinds of those endorphins and those happy chemicals that reduces stress. And, we know if there's one thing that YouTube is good at, it's watching silly things that make you laugh, right? That's what's go viral. So you don't need to watch the big horror movie. You don't need to watch a slasher movie during exams. Find something that is humorous. Send your kids funny comics. Send them funny tweets. Send humor their way. A funny little card goes a long way in breaking the mood of the day. If you can find your laughter, it's going to do great in reducing your stress. So find that laughter. Another thing is creativity. And you can argue whether this is creative or not. Creative dance, creative painting, playing the guitar, singing, anything where you're tapping into that part of you, because you go into flow. It is actually a state of meditation. Flow is a state of meditation. So you've probably seen these. This is just one example, but these are like the coloring books. Lots of people relax with these coloring books. Some people argue they're not creative because you're just filling in the lines, but whatever. The point is, it does do the same thing in terms of your mind going somewhere. So if you want to send your kid a little, from home, thinking of you, I know you're struggling with exams, here's some tea, here's a scented candle, here's, a little coloring book, and those are great ways that not only give them tools to break the stress, but it says that they're thinking of me at home, that they really need to feel that base support, that you're there for them. And they're so worried about letting you down. Again, just sending that message like, you're okay, we love you, you got this, we'll make this, we'll get through this together. Lots of people don't make it through the first round of exams or whatever. Everything is recoverable. Mistakes are recoverable. It's such an important message. I think volunteering is another great one. Again, kids are going to say, I don't have time. But often when they are in the act of service and helping other people, you could be a study pal, but you could be working at a food bank, you could be mentoring as a big sister, a big brother. It's very soul nurturing, and it's very grounding, so that you can feel more like a whole person and not just like a student who has to perform. So see if there's some other capacity where giving back and doing for others, helping out on campus, see what offerings they have through the student services bulletin boards. You get that time back in your productivity and your efficiency. The other thing is writing, a journal or a blog. Because when you express what you're feeling, when you talk about your stories, they don't get stuck perseverating in the brain. And what the research will show, Penny Baker is a big researcher on this, and he's worked with students. It decreases suicidality. It decreases blood pressure. It increases life expectancy. That we need to disclose our feelings. Otherwise, it's like a beach ball. You're always pushing them down. And when you express them, and you don't need anyone to hear them. They don't have to be public. You don't have to go to a counselor. But if you journal them, you take them from your thoughts into language, into a motor action that you're either typing or writing, and it seems to move where it goes in the brain and allows us to process those emotions in a way that we dissipate them. They don't get held in at a cellular level that makes our anxiety go up. So I journal every day, and I don't have my journal here, but I would open it up for you, because you know what? I journal in a way that you cannot read my handwriting. It is illegible. I'm not writing in order to go back and read what I wrote before. I'm writing to just do stream of consciousness, just whatever's on my mind, get it out on paper in a way that I'm never going to look at it again. It's the process of transforming it onto the page that reduces the stress. And I do that every single day. So whether your kids are putting stuff up on a blog or whether they want to have a paper journal, whatever their format is for them, get it out. Get it out. It's going to reduce the stress. The other thing is being in nature. There seems to be like a Hertz wavelength that we're experience when we're out in nature. And interestingly, even just looking at pictures of nature. So change your screensaver. Tell your kids to put a picture that's got a beautiful lake or some favorite place that you went on a camping trip or whatever. And when they're stressed, have that on in the background. And they're going to find that is very calming. And ask them, when do you feel calm? For some people, it's a hot bath. For other people, it's certain calming music. Ask your kids, you know yourself best. Notice, be aware, be attentive. When do you feel calm? So the point of my talk, and I want to turn things over to you, is kids often turn to alcohol as a shortcut for when they're stressed. And given that we know that early adolescence, high times of stress, and early adolescence, young adulthood is often when we see increases in things like mental health issues of depression and anxiety, suicidality, you add that with a self-medication of alcohol, and you got a bad combination going. So again, rather than just simply saying, don't drink, let's say, I get it, you're stressed. Let me help you come up with other ways of solving that so that you don't have to participate in the illegal act of underage drinking, or when you become of age, that you're not turning to that as a coping mechanism, which is not a good life skill. So those are my thoughts for tonight. I tried to give you as many pragmatic tips that you can help your kids with. Don't be frightened about talking about preventing underage drinking with your kids and why it's of value to you that we don't participate in illegal activity and shortcuts that could get kids in big trouble, and share our love and concern for them. So let's hear what you've been thinking about and ideas that you've come up with, and whether you remember being stressed during exams and the importance of friendship, the importance of family, the importance of getting out and running around. Do you have questions, Catherine?
We do, yeah.
I'll take a sip of my coffee here as you shout them out to me.
Okay, so first one is my son has failed his last 2 tests and is feeling very discouraged.
Yeah.
It's been almost impossible to get in touch with him over the last week, and I'm worrying that he's given up or is feeling hopeless.
Yeah.
I suggest I get through to him.
Oh, so you might. The great thing about technology today is that we have the ability to do texting, we have the ability to do FaceTime. It's very scary when you're not there. But I think, again, to be able to say, like most kids are worried that they're letting you down. I mean, yes, they're letting themselves down, but this isn't how they thought things were going. And they really want, what really helps people get encouraged is to say, you know what, I get it. how discouraging to have 2 bad fails. But you know what? Maybe you share a personal experience. I flunked out of my first year. It took me a long time to learn how to be a student. Many students don't land in the right program, don't have the right study skills, and to reflect on them that this is not a reflection of them as a human being and their worth and their lovability. This is simply like a challenge that we've got to solve, and let's figure out what's going on. Is it that you're not interested in the subject matter? Is it that you don't have the study skills? Because we can get that on campus. We can get study coaches. We can get tutors. Sometimes kids are very, very smart, but they're bad at writing papers, in which case there's often essay writing classes that can help you with that. And just say, listen, we're just going to solve where it is that you're up against this wall, and we'll take the challenge together. You're there. I love you. I worry about non-communication in the sense that kids will kind of go underground, and we need to make sure that there's all eyes on board, right? It takes a village. So maybe you know one of their friends and you can stay in touch and just say, hey, I got a concern. I just really want them to know that I'm caring and concerned. Send that little package, see if they want to come home, and certainly say, if you don't want to talk to me, like, I get it. You got to know, not all kids want to talk to their parents about their problems. They don't want them to have a bad opinion of them. So we say, is there a counselor you could talk to? Is there your Dawn on your floor? The important thing is that they have one adult that they feel that they can talk to and divulge to, or even, Kids Help Phone. Kids Help Phone now, it's not, the word kid does not mean child. They're basically, it goes all through university. If you feel that you need to talk to someone anonymously about your struggles, they will take your call. And they have lots of students and lots of ways that they can help you out. So the important thing is to plug your kid in so that they're not isolated and not talking. So hope that helps. We've all been there. Yeah.
Okay, my daughter was diligent at studying when she was in high school, but since she started university, she is studying less, sleeping in more, and skipping classes. I'm fairly sure she's partying with some of her roommates, but I don't know how to call her out on it.
Well, so that sounds like first year. It's a big transition to go off to university. Of course, we would all like our kids to hit the road running and to like buckle down and be serious. But for a lot of kids, it's the first time at liberation. They really care very much about their friends. They may never have had to be self-monitoring in terms of getting up in the morning. They don't really know how much class you can go to or not go to. So they're testing boundaries, and they are going to make mistakes. And our job as a parent is to help them recover from mistakes rather than interfering in the process and protecting them from mistakes, which does nothing but impede learning and make them mad at us. So I think you need to have some conversation about what your parental expectation is around, if they fail, are you going to pay for that course to be repeated? Like, I might say, hey, listen, I've paid as much as I'm going to pay for your education. If you happen to need to repeat a year, we're going to have to talk about how to get that financed. But I would expect most kids to have a very rocky first year. It's not that I want to condone it and say, go party right off the year, I'll pay for it. But the truth is, I do think it is inherent in the process that to test and to learn and to figure it out means the first year is probably going to be the worst. And most students, their marks go up and up and up and up because they get better at studying. They get less distracted by the freedoms. They get those skills under their belt. So I think to show trust and to say, you'll figure it out. If you want to get better marks, you know how to get them. Just to continue in that vein, but be very clear about who's going to pay for what, because you may have a couple fails and it could cost some muchacho. I would talk about it. Yeah.
Okay, how do we start preparing our kids to manage these stressors from an early age, or how early should we start prepping them?
How early should we start? Like I said, I have kids that are doing mindfulness meditation in kindergarten, in pre-kindergarten. So I think learning how to deal with stress, especially in this day and age, because families are stressed, society is stressed, individuals are stressed. Anxiety is the most diagnosed of the mental disorders. There's a 20% occurrence rate over the course of a lifetime that all of us are going to experience anxiety at some time. So I think that is something that you start from the get-go, and it really comes down to your definition of what that might look like. I would say one way of dealing with stress, even with an 18-month-old, is to just get that idea of mistakes are opportunities to learn. They're not failures. That is actually a stress reducing strategy. But yoga, mindfulness, breathing, good sleeping habits, good exercising habits, all of those things happen in the early years at home through your modeling, through your family values. So yes, I start anytime.
Any tips on how to help my high schooler study in a better fashion? Right now she is blaring music or Netflix. I try to tell her to turn it off and she ignores me.
Oh, how to help them study. Well, it's a fascinating thing looking at kids and studying. Again, what I'm hoping that parents will take away from this is that as your kids age, our role has to change. Our modality of parenting has to evolve as our kids evolve. So when they're little, we're very instructional. We're kind of an educator, right? Get your books, put them on the table. This is how we do it. But as your kids get older, we have to move that role into a much more of a coaching type of role, where rather than being dictatorial and telling them what to do, we want them to do the thinking. So we want them to process, what do I need in order to study the most effectively? And we can't impose our formula on them. And the truth of the matter is, some people need to study so that you can't hear a pin drop, including my lovely daughter Zoe, who you met at the beginning of my Facebook Live. She wants absolute silence for her to focus and concentrate and study. The house must be quiet so she can focus. I, on the other hand, I work. I'm not writing exams or doing homework, but I write books. Where am I the most productive? A big bubbling coffee shop with lots of noise and music and people around me. That's where I'm the most productive. So if you put Zoe into that environment, she'd have a terrible time. If you put me in a library where you couldn't hear a pin drop, I'd be paralyzed. So there's no right way to study. It's about learning the formula for each individual person and what helps them and what hinders them. Now, you can say, I know you feel like it would be really great to have your Facebook on and chat with your friends while you're doing homework, but do you know that it's taking you 5 times as long? And some kids will say, that's okay, I'm willing to take 5 times as long, and they may well be collaborating, and we think they're just visiting, but for all we know, their friends are helping diffuse the stress, giving them ideas of what they're working on, and it could be very collaborative. And the future society is calling on students to be collaborative, to not work in isolation, to not work in silos, which was how we were trained. Sit in your desk, work on your paper, don't talk to your neighbors. It's a new day and age. So I think we just have to coach them around, are you getting the results we want? Are you okay spending that much time? And have them do the processing rather than saying, this is what good studying looks like. Because I don't think it's the same for all people.
Okay. How much does a romantic relationship influence a teenager's decision making? With hormones running wild, suddenly they're exposed to a new world of influences.
Oh boy. So I think the thing we have to appreciate is there are biological changes that happen with hormones, through puberty, that happen in the brain in terms of the wiring and neuroplasticity, and it is an incredible amount of change. And a matter of fact, this is how it was powerfully explained to me. Think about the amount of change that happens from the time you had a newborn baby until it was 2 years old, up and walking and talking. Think about how much change that is. So that's in 2 years. That's the same amount of change that's going to happen in adolescence for them in 2 years. It's an incredible rupturing of things. So, but know also developmentally that the reason those things are happening for an appropriate reason, because in adolescence, that's when we are supposed to be concerned with finding our place with our peers. Because if you look at the human species, think about you as an adult, you will spend the majority of your adult life dealing with peers. Yes, some people will be older, some people will be younger, but most of us spend the majority of our adult life with peers. So you better know how to deal with peers. That starts in adolescence, and it's when we pair bond. And so those sexual hormones start to get us being sexually aware. And so we are curious about the same sex or other sex, depending on how your body got wired. And our sexual identity starts to come, our sexual interest starts to get charged. And so all of that is going to make us be very motivated to find out, who do I like? Do they like me? How do I fit in? And that's developmentally appropriate. In fact, I would say it is the job of adolescents. That is their developmental task. And so, yes, it's going to absolutely influence them in a very large way. So as parents, what we want to do, again, is not to pick their friends and not to diminish, like, oh, it's just hormones. That would be like somebody say, oh, you're just PMSing. It's very dismissive. Instead, we want to be very supportive and understand it's an important developmental task and that they're working very hard at it. It's very important to them, as it should be. And we want to help them learn, what is it to be in a good relationship? What is it to have friends that bring out the best in you, that have your shared values, and that you are not being pulled by them in a way that separates you from who you are as a person and from the values that you have held dear to. But they will. Again, they're going to test. Is this my parental values? Is this the values I learned growing up at home? Or are these my values separate from my family? Because I don't want to be a patsy. So again, adolescence is so much about experimentation that as parents, we have to take the long road. Don't get so caught up in just what happened this week or this one friend. It's a long journey. It's going to be lots of experimentation, and they need to know that you love them and that you are there on the shore as they're whitewater rafting the chutes of and tumultuous times of adolescence, and that you're constantly sending them positive messages of, you'll manage, you'll learn, you'll figure it out, you're getting this. What do you think about that? How did that feel to you? So help them navigate that and know that that's their work. Yeah. Even more than school, believe it or not.
Time for one more?
Yeah, sure. I'll take one more. Sure.
So my 18-year-old daughter has admitted to experimenting with drinking with her friends who are in university already. She is underage, and I'm concerned. We've had open dialogue, but I'm concerned that the influence of these friends is it's only going to get worse.
Yeah. So, so this is just a statistical truth. The closer your kids get to the legal age of drinking, the more the likelihood is that they will experiment and try. Now, having said that, the good news is we do know that from the last surveys that have been done, that the number of teens that are underage that are drinking in Canada is coming down every year, and it is now the minority of kids who are drinking, but that risk factor goes up as they approach the legal drinking age. And of course, part of it, as you see, is that because you have peers that are legal and they are enjoying it, and you're at the party and they're legal and you're not, and how's that all going to play out? So as a parent, I think to be empathetic, to say, I understand your challenge, but as a parent, we can still say, however, let me just restate our family values, which is you're still a minor, it's still illegal, and in our family, we don't pick and choose which laws we're going to accept and not accept. So we don't say, we're supposed to drive on the right side of the road, but it would be very convenient for me right now to drive on the left side of the road because nobody's over there. It's like that laws are made in order for social organizations to function better, and that drinking is one of many restraints that we have that are age-based. So the same as managing a trust fund, when you can vote, when you can join the military. We have certain things that are age-based, and those are done for a reason. So as a minor, and because it is illegal, it's still expected that you're going to be a law-abiding person and live by those values. But seeing as you're going to hang out with your friends, let's cover off some ways that you can be there and be comfortable. And what would that look like? And give them literally some tactics on, again, rather than just saying, say no. I don't think that's much help. But what could you say when the bottle's going around? And you can say, let me be the scapegoat. You can say, look, my mother's absolutely going to give me a breathalyzer when I come home because she is like so not about this. Or you come up with some reason that feels more comfortable, like, you know what, I've been trying all year to get on the varsity team, and I really don't want to screw up my chances, and the big games the big auditions or tryout is on Friday, and so no, I'm abstaining, or I'm doing the paleo, whatever, I'm not having any carbs, pass on the beer. Whatever feels comfortable for your child, just help them have that rehearsed way out. And a lot of times people don't even need to, they can put stuff in who knows whether they're having a vodka cranberry or just a cranberry. People, it's amazing how much they think people are going to know what they're drinking. They actually don't. Like, they often really don't care. Volunteer to be the DD. Okay, you want to make friends? Say, hey, I'm not drinking because I'm going to do the driving. You are now going to be the new hero. And now you've got your great alibi because you're like, I can't drink. I'm and kids are, I find, very responsible about that. So help them find a way to save face and say no and decline in a way that feels real to them while restating your values and have trust. And of course, at the same time say, and should anything go wrong, pick up the phone and call me. Do not drink and drive. Do not get yourself in trouble. We want you to be alive. That's the most important value. So, so there you go. Oh, look, God, there's one more. Okay, sure, why not?
Okay, what do you do if you see your child hanging with friends who you know are a negative influence?
What do you do if your kids are hanging with people that are a negative influence? So again, there is no sense in saying you can't be friends with them because it doesn't work. Look at Romeo and Juliet. I mean, kids will sneak out windows, lie, become deceptive. That is not going to work. What is going to work is that your parent, if you keep your relationship strong with your kids, you stay tightly bonded, use positive discipline instead of punitive tactics. If your kids respect you and then you share an opinion and you say, it concerns me that whenever you hang out with these friends, you come home and you seem agitated, or, you used to spend a lot of time with the family. Now we never see you anymore now that you're hanging with this new group of friends, or whatever it might be that is your concern. State what you're seeing, state what you see as of concern, or what doesn't seem respectful, or it seems to have changed. Just state what you're saying. And ask if they've noticed it as well. Because again, you're trying to get them to process it, what healthy relationships look like and when they bring out their best, and what negative relationships look like and why they don't bring out their best, and why that might be something that they don't want to venture down the path with. And so you can disclose your concern and talk about what healthy relationships look like, but that's the best you can do at the moment. And again, take the long path. They haven't, friends groups do change. And if you have serious concerns, teens are very suspicious of adults and they don't like to be thought that they're broken or wrong. I say to people, rather than sending your teen for counseling, go for family counseling, because you're the one that has the problem about who they're hanging around with. So say, hey, we need to go as a family and see if we can't function better ourselves, rather than saying you're the problem, you need fixing. And that often will then allow you to have access to an expert. So, all right. Well, I think we need to wrap up here, people. People have to get back to studying, right? So please do not forget that as a parent, as much as you might feel that as your kids get older, that the number one influence is their peers and popular culture, but that does not hold true in the research. That when we look at what influences kids in terms of their decision to not drink underage, the number one factor is parental influence. You have a lot more power than you know, and that power comes from being in a healthy relationship and expressing your values and your expectations to your kids. So do not be afraid to talk about this with your kids. And if you need guidance about the conversation, please check out my videos on my YouTube channel, and we'll put up a link. And so here's for a healthy, safe exam time with not too much stress and keeping our families intact. So thanks for participating tonight. Hope it was helpful. Thank you.